And we are live. Hey up, Sofa Squad. Welcome to another edition
Live too. Yay!
of On the Sofa.
I'm not seeing anything on the YouTube yet. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, it's just taking it. It's got a longer lag today.
Oh, I see. We are live.
Yep,
and
we're good.
Welcome to On the Sofa with my co-host, Sci Niece.
Hello.
And our guest, Purple.
Hello.
And oh, there's a comment already. And we've got Dog in the side chat saying howdy.
Hello.
Hey, Dog.
And I think now is as good as time as any to mention that Dog and I are working on a project together.
Oh wait, Dog's here. You did find him. You did mention in the DM you were having a little trouble getting a hold of him. I'm glad that seems to have been resolved.
Yeah, yes, yes, it has. And we're those. I don't know if you guys know this, but I've been working on a trilogy of response videos to Off the Curb Ministries. I did the first one with Bad Tempered Badger, the second one with Not Your Witness, and now I'm working on the third one with Dog. And it's going to be another doozy. So watch this space for that one. So, back, moving on with the show. I think we'll start with the budget, because that's the most topical news story at the moment.
Yes, I think I actually did get the chance to skim the article on that one, but I assume we'll be bringing it up.
Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but once a year, around about the same time every year, we have the annual budget where the Chancellor of the Exchequer, he's kind of more the second income, he's kind of the second most important person next to the Prime Minister. He holds the purse strings, as it were, and he decides how the government's money is going to be spent, or rather how taxpayers' money is going to be spent for the next few years. And so I'll just bring up the article. I've got an article here from BBC News. So I'll just bring that up. It's basically the budget, the key points of the budget. So I'll just bring that up. Yeah, here we go. Budget 2021, key points at a glance. There's our Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak.
Okay.
He's the poster boy for the Tories at the moment. All eyes are on his career. People are already saying he could be the next Prime Minister. So watch out for that.
Face.
So, first of all, coronavirus support. Furlough is to be extended until the end of September. The government is to continue paying 80% of employees' wages for hours they cannot work. Employers to be asked to contribute 10% in July and 20% in August and September. Support for the self-employed also to be extended until September. 600,000 more self-employed people will be eligible for help as access to grants is widened. £20 weekly uplift in universal credit worth £1,000 a year to be extended for another 6 months. Working tax credit claimants will get £500 one-off payment. Minimum wage to increase to £8.91 an hour from April. So what do you guys think of that so far?
Honestly, it seems like over there you've got it a little more together than we do. I mean, there's everything is this knockdown, drag out, long-winded fight. I mean, our minimum wage has been $7.25 an hour since before I was old enough to even start learning how to drive a car.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. I mean, your prime minister sucks, but like, at least he's only sucked for a little while in relative, like compared to how long our government has. I mean, my God.
The problem is the previous prime minister sucked, and so did the one before that, and the one before that.
Yeah. In the U.S., the minimum wage was last raised in 2009.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So I think we go through flip-flop periods of anywhere from 4 to 8 years of we start moving forward because Democrat gets into office, and then then we had Trump, and then that just set us back a couple of generations, since now it's okay to be openly racist. And I mean, I'm surprised there wasn't a mass KKK march.
Yeah.
Was there really?
A white supremacist parade? Yep.
Well, yeah, white supremacist. I thought there would be like a flat out KKK, white hoods flying and all.
Well, they were marching carrying Nazi flags. What more do you want?
The noose around his neck on a horse.
Oh, you know what? I did
The
hear
cop
about
was sitting
that.
on a horse, and they were dragging him down the street with a noose on his neck.
Okay, so you know what? I
Like
stand
olden
corrected. I stand corrected. The only thing missing was the white hoods. Anyway.
Yeah. So moving on with the budget, state of the economy and public finances. The UK economy shrank by 10% in 2020. Economy forecast to rebound in 2021 with predicted annual growth of 4% this year. Economy forecast to return to pre-COVID levels by middle of 2022 with growth of 7.3% next year. 700,000 people have lost their jobs since pandemic began. Unemployment expected to peak at 6.5% next year, lower than 11.9% previously predicted. To borrow a UK to borrow peacetime record of £355 billion this year, borrowing to total $234 billion in 2021 to 22. So, what do you guys think of that?
So my only question would be where they're getting the predictions of a bounce back from. Are they operating under the assumption of mass vaccination as more vaccines become available? And so they're foreseeing the end of the pandemic in the semi-near future? Is it based on that, or is this just being pulled from the depths of the darkest corner of someone's ass?
Yeah, I've got a feeling that the numbers are kind of arbitrary at this point because between the pandemic and the Brexit, it doesn't really seem to me that the British economy is likely to expand that soon.
Yeah, it seems awfully
because one of the biggest issues with the Brexit now is them realizing that, yeah, this means that British companies don't have a very big market for a lot of their products.
Yeah.
Hopefully there will be a way to reverse. Hopefully there will be a way to reverse the Brexit and for them to come back. I'm hoping it's, once there's some more civilized people in power. I'm hoping they'll kind of realize they done fucked up. That's a shame. You can't. It does no one any good for any nation, really. You can't really be so hyper focused on your own sovereignty that you forget about the global good, and it seems like that's what happened here.
Yeah. But I wouldn't hold your breath though on Brexit being undone. It's done now, and that's it. I'm afraid.
That's a shame. I just
Yeah.
hope over time the door opens for that to slowly.
Yeah. I want to. So go on.
It's just a shame, an ignorant public with no idea what they were doing to themselves. It's just like here, where people still vote Republican. They're against their own self-interest, and they have absolutely no idea that they are not, in fact, doing something that will be in anyone's best interest, theirs or their fellow man.
Yeah, because the politicians get them riled up over emotional and religious things rather than the practical matters that are going to affect their day-to-day life.
Yeah.
But it does seem there's a lot less push from the religious communities or the extreme religious communities on that side of the pond as opposed to ours. But I mean, church and state are not as separate, but it doesn't seem like everything is but God, but Jesus, but
it's kind of ironic since they do have the Church of England, but overall it seems people there are not as religious.
Here in this country, I would say it's the mainstream media, and especially the newspapers. The newspapers are owned by 7 billionaires. All the newspapers.
I believe 6 companies own all of the media and news outlets over here as well.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not sure the exact number, but it's not.
There is a media oligarchy.
Yeah, it's just a handful of people.
Rupert Murdoch owns a big chunk of it. Both here
because
and
in the US,
States.
there's been just the huge thing of the couple of larger networks buying up all the smaller networks.
And Double Down News, did a really good video a while back explaining how these media oligarchies, persuaded the working class to vote against their own interests. And it's really, it's a really insightful video, to look up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Double Down News. Dog is saying, not all of us were ignorant. Some of us voted Remain. Yes.
Well, yes, just like not all of us were idiots, and some of us voted for Hillary.
Well, this is it.
We really have a lot more in common than I used to think.
Yes.
You guys are just as batshit crazy as we are. No wonder school doesn't make jokes about me because I'm American and just chooses other reasons to make fun of me.
No, Stool has said he can't really make jokes about the Americans since Brexit went through.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah.
Well, the Americans can make jokes about him.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, we, not all of us, but the majority of us were persuaded to vote for Brexit, I think what happened was David Cameron, who was Prime Minister at the time, he was under pressure from his backbench MPs. They were putting pressure on him to leave the EU, basically. Because the Brexit party, the UKIP parties were gaining popularity, and they could see that traditional conservative voters were going over to UKIP, and so they wanted to win them back. So to try and get their voters back, they tried to do a compromise to say, okay, we'll have a referendum, and you can vote in this referendum to vote whether or not to stay in the EU. And of course, the majority of people said, "Up yours! You silly bastard! We're going to screw you over. We're going to vote. We're going to vote to leave." So that's what they. It's. I'm being flippant, but there's more to it than that. But that's basically what happened, and we shot ourselves in the foot, as it were. Anyway, I think I just want to, talk about the budget, the health and education budget. Then we'll move on from this story, I think. So, they're going to. They pledged 1.65 billion to support the UK's vaccination rollout, and 50 million to boost the UK's vaccine testing capability. 19 million for domestic violence programs, funding network of respite rooms and for homeless women. 40 million of new funding for victims of the 1960s thalidomide scandal and lifetime support guarantee, and £10 million to support armed forces veterans with mental health needs.
Oh my God, you guys actually give a shit about your veterans. Teach me your ways. Well, I care about our veterans, but you get my point. Teach us your ways.
Yeah, the big deal in the U.S. is that the veterans can get health care.
Yeah.
Well, we've just seen how true that is now, haven't we?
Yeah.
And so my, from a British point of view, this year's budget, you'd think it'd be from the Labour Party, not rather than the Conservative Party. It's more of a what you would call a Democrat budget rather than a Republican's budget, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out while I was looking over some of the articles in the Google Doc. I was kind of trying to figure out which party. I was kind of trying to draw comparisons to our own system to kind of help me understand better. I mean, I'm starting to get the gist of things. I am starting to be a little more with it. At least I'm a lot more than I was last week. But, I mean, I got a long way to go, but I'm doing it smart.
Yeah. Well, basically, the Labour Party is kind of the equivalent to the Democrats. And I think Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, did describe, or someone else, from the Labour Party recently did describe the Democratic Party as their sister party.
Yeah, but there seem to be some stark differences. I mean, I forget exactly what I was reading in the articles. It's a lot of things. I'm sure you understand, given the situation going on. Off screen. I'm going to kill him. But
oh, he didn't have any gold. But yeah, rapid fire SMG. I need that.
I could swear this is not about Fortnite, but
yes, it is.
Not what I'm doing, hat. Anyway,
nigga out here trying to live.
Oh my God. But I mean, it seems like there is a little more voting against the common good. I did see something about there's calls for Starmer to step down amid some pretty serious political blunders.
Yeah, and which leads us nicely to the next story that we're going to talk about, actually. So I'll just bring that one up from Independent, newspaper, the Squawk Box. This
That
one.
doesn't sound like it would be independent. Just from the name, it just sounds like it's got some sort of partisan leaning. I was pleasantly surprised in skimming to see that it wasn't as.
But the headline reads exclusive as Starmer sides with Tory right to block tax rises on wealthy. Labour threatens councillors who rebel against Tory budget caps with severe disciplinary. So, and the subheading is Starmer is now to the right of Sunak and Johnson on tax, and is acting as their enforcer on local government cuts and caps. And there's a nice meme of him with the laser eyes there.
I think that's the wrong color. It should be red. We actually have a Democratic senator who is similarly, screw you, I'm going to vote with the other side for no reason. Joe Manukin, I think his name is, or I forget.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. But basically, for a bit of context, before Keir Starmer was leader of the Labour Party, we had Jeremy Corbyn as leader of the Labour Party, and he was more like Barney, Sanders. He was more to the left, and the people, Joe Blogs on the street loved him because he wasn't your average, stereotypical career politician. He really, he's a real people's person. He really, wanted to help. He really came across as down to earth and really wanted to to help people. But unfortunately, the Labour Party hated him, and they did all they could to get rid of him. And unfortunately, what happened was, because people wanted Brexit, they voted for the Conservative Party because they were promising to get Brexit done. But Jeremy Corbyn's message on Brexit was not very clear, and so they voted for the Conservatives, and they won by a landslide, and so Jeremy Corbyn had to go. So there was a leadership contest, and Keir Starmer won. And now Keir Starmer is more to the right. He's almost a Tory.
Yep.
So, anyways, we've got this Tory in charge of the Labour Party, basically, and so he and his front bench, it says in the article, have horrified Labour members this week on the issue of higher corporation tax. After months of habitual abstentionism, Starmer finally decided to do some opposition by rallying against Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak's proposal to increase tax on companies making huge profits and higher taxes for the wealthy. In doing so, he has sided with the hard right of the Tory party. The move prompted outrage on the left. If companies and the wealthy are not taxed more, the burden will inevitably be placed even more on the shoulders of those least able to bear it, and a large measure of exasperated derision.
Yeah, so they foresee that the government's going to need a lot more money in the next couple of years, but they're opposing taxing the corporations that make the biggest profits.
Yeah.
Corporations are people, though, after all. Oh my God.
I'm not sure if they are in Britain. That might just be a US thing.
And so people on the left are not happy. They're not happy with Keir Starmer, who or Angela Rayner, who is the shadow chancellor. She's second in command basically. She's more to the right as well, and together they've been purging the members of the Labour Party on the left.
If I didn't know any better, I would say it sounds like the Tories are just low-key infiltrating the Labour Party to destroy it from the inside. That's kind of what it seems like to me. Because I did see in our, and I'm assuming this is what we're bringing up next, it sounds like Starmer refuses to step down.
Yeah.
No matter who wants him to.
Yeah.
Everybody loves having power.
Yeah. And I'm going to share that now, actually. Yes, here we go. This is from the Telegraph. Support for Keir Starmer plunges to new low, poll suggests.
I like that cookware that seems to be on sale. I know it's irrelevant, but I do need to start shopping for kitchenware. So,
but unfortunately, it seems that Keir Starmer's net approval ratings crashed to 0 as Boris Johnson leads his rival by 10% points. But unfortunately, this article is behind a paywall. I can't, and I haven't been able to find any equivalent article that's, to give much more information than that. But there you go. But the one problem that the right side of the Labour Party had with Jeremy Corbyn was that he wasn't popular. Their argument was he's popular with the people, but for whatever reason he's just not a good leader. He's not leadership material. He won't win an election. But now they've got rid of him. They're still doing badly in the polls. You'd think it'd be the other way around. You'd think now they've got rid of Jeremy Corbyn, they'd be going up in the polls, but they're not.
Well, there's always a scummier fish waiting to muddy the waters even further. If we are to be an example of anything, it is that.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, the Labour Party are in trouble. We could very easily end up with another 4, maybe even 8 years of the Conservative Party here in the country, because the Labour Party are a mess. And then the problem is the Scottish National Party dominate in Scotland. So unless the Labour Party can team up, do some kind of deal or coalition with the Scottish National Party, I don't see them ever beating the Tories at the moment.
What a clusterfuck that is.
Yeah, exactly. And because in this country, just like America, you need the seats. You need you need enough MPs to be, on your side, to be able to get your laws through. You need to be able to govern with a majority. And at the moment, it doesn't look like Labour are going to be able to command a majority. So we're stuck with the Conservatives.
It is just like the Democratic Party. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm more pragmatic about it than some, but
Yeah.
ideally I would love to see a lot of the more progressive, farther left ideas come to fruition. I mean, if a college education is going to be considered as important as a high school diploma was back when you guys were growing up, when people still rode dinosaurs to school, it makes sense that a college education should not put you into debt for the rest of your life. I think we'll have to take baby steps toward it, but healthcare for all, Medicare for all would be, it's a good premise to work toward. But at the end of the day, we've got too many people on the more radical side of the Democratic spectrum refusing to vote Democrat unless there's a lot of Puritanism in that, and all the infighting between the more pragmatic centrist Democrats who aren't as bleeding heart as the radicals. Between all of that, it's turning into the very real threat of Republican majorities, which will set us back centuries, not just generations like Trump did. I mean, we're going to plunge into a dark ages of our own.
Yeah.
It's people have to, if you're going to be in the same party, if you've chosen this one party that suits your ideals and you need them to be in the majority, then there's got to be that one common goal in mind at the end of the day. You can't get too wrapped up in the details of, but he's not doing things my way, so I'm going to go run to the other side. It can't be like that. It hurts. It hurts everyone in the end.
But there is some good news for the Labour Party. In my opinion, anyway, as someone on the left, I want to share something with you guys. Yeah. There's an MP from the Labour Party called Zara Sultana, and she said this earlier this week. Hang on. Oh, hang on. I forgot to share audio. Sorry. Okay, share audio.
Zara Sultana.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I had only been an MP for a few months when the pandemic hit, and hearing its impact on my constituents has been harrowing. We've seen demand at Coventry Food Bank skyrocket. The number of people on universal credit has doubled. Thousands have lost their jobs. Now more than 2.5 million children go to bed hungry. But Mr. Deputy Speaker, what I find most difficult, what makes me shake with anger, is knowing that while the vast majority of people have suffered hardship, a wealthy few have cashed in. Last week, the Secretary of State for Health was found to have acted unlawfully in his handling of COVID contracts. breaking transparency rules designed to safeguard against corruption, his department now stands accused of awarding fortunes to Tory friends and donors. For example, a friend of the Secretary of State, whose partner just so happens to be a donor to the Secretary of State, was awarded a £14 million contract for PPE. A staggering £881 million have been handed to just 8 big Tory donors. These people don't give their money just because they're generous. They give it because they want a government that works for them and not our constituents. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, if you look at the economy before the pandemic hit, you'll see that's what they got. While median earnings are down nearly 5% in the last decade, the wealth of the richest 1,000 people has more than doubled. While the working class have had a decade of services cut, the super rich have had their taxes cut. This economy isn't broken, it is rigged. It doesn't work for the majority, but it works perfectly well for the wealthy few. This rigged economy has meant that the virus has hit so much harder than it had to. It thrives on poverty and inequality. It exposes brutal cuts to public services. And the pandemic isn't the only crisis we face. We have a crisis of poverty, a crisis of inequality, and a climate crisis that overshadows it all. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this isn't a time for tinkering around the edges. It's 40 years of neoliberalism that got us here in the first place, and we can't go back to that. So let this be our 1945 moment. Then we saw from the rubbles of war, people refusing to go back to the society of the old, an unfair society. They created the NHS, they built the welfare state and millions of council homes. Today, let's have the same level of ambition with the People's Green New Deal, a program of economic transformation that combats social injustice and the climate emergency, investing in green technology, infrastructure and services, creating more than 1 million well-paid jobs, giving key workers a pay rise and making the super rich pay with their fair share. Instead of returning to a rigged economy of the past, with the People's Green New Deal, let us build a fairer future. Thank you.
Okay.
If that ain't proof that we are, over there, you guys are turning into just as much of an oligarchy as we are. My God.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm afraid I need to run here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, purple.
We'll catch you later.
Well, thanks for dropping by.
Always great to have you. I did get your DM. I will look into the link. Never mind. He sent me a link to some cookware. I'm gonna have to look into that. But no, my God, I have, that's really eye-opening. I swear, as you go higher in the income brackets, as you go higher into the income brackets, as you're going higher into the income brackets, I swear it's like some of people's humanity gets taken away. It's like money robs anyone's sense of compassion. I swear rich people are all sociopaths.
Yeah. Yeah, but people on the right say, oh, we don't like Zara Sultana because she's just like AOC. But actually,
that's one reason to like her.
Yeah, I love her because she's like AOC.
If we had more AOCs and less Mitch McConnells in this world, we would get to a utopia.
Well, yes, exactly. But I really hope that the more people, just like her, become members of parliament and senators on your side of the Atlantic in the near future. Yeah, we need people like this. We're going to stand up for the rest of us.
There's just going to have to be a global revolution And these rich people are just going to have to be made to drown in their own shit. That's what it's going to come to. I mean, you laugh, but it's true. I swear to God, billionaires and trillionaires, fuck you, Jeff Bezos, they're psychopaths. They care nothing about. They're hoarding all this wealth.
And talk about wanting to save the people, but use that wealth you're hoarding if you really want to help, bitch.
Exactly. I think Josh hit the nail on the head. You know, if
you want to help, you would pay your taxes and not hide your fucking money.
Exactly. Offshore bank accounts, Swiss bank accounts. It's ridiculous. We're just becoming such a greedy world. It's a sad, sad state.
I mean, I won't lie, I'm greedy, but I'll still help people when I can.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. You have no income.
Even if I did, I would help people when I could, no matter what.
I'm just saying, you move higher and higher into the income brackets, you become more and more of a sociopath. It's like people turn into. Can I please?
I'll wait till you're done.
It's ridiculous. It's really just a sad state of affairs. It's like I feel a little less alone over here in the U.S., knowing it's not just a U.S. problem, but at the same time, it's so much more discouraging.
Yeah.
When I think about the general fate of humanity, not that I think we're much anymore.
Well, yeah. But there is some good news on your side of the Atlantic. And apparently...
Over here, though, we're getting scary stupid.
We are scary stupid.
I mean, for God's sake, at the Conservative Political Action Committee, they were worshiping a golden Trump idol.
Yeah, we're going to come to that later. But talking of Trump's secret tax returns finally handed over to Manhattan District Attorney after 2-year battle.
Oh my God, I remember when this broke. My boss and I were in the office, and we almost literally started jumping for joy. It's about fucking time. Now, this is a subject I can weigh in a lot more heavily on, and I think I'm going to take the liberty of doing so. This motherfucker paid about $750 in income tax. I pay more than that in a month. Yeah. I swear I pay more than that in a month than Trump did in 2017. It's disgusting. It is. He's a tax cheat at minimum. And not only that, I don't know if you saw this. I wish I had the chance to throw it in our Google Doc. I mean, he's definitely a criminal. Actually, there's a criminal case that's gone on to the grand jury in the state of Georgia regarding that call to the Secretary of State looking to find him votes. But you know, I was talking to my daughter's paternal grandmother. You know, as much as I'd love to see him jailed for inciting a riot, and I'd love to see him jailed for sedition. As much as I'd love to see him jailed for all of that, I'll take tax evasion. Got Al Capone behind bars where he belongs.
Yeah. But the story. I've got the story from the Independent. It says this: Donald Trump's tax records are now in the possession of New York prosecutors after a years-long battle by the former president to keep them secret. The district attorney's office obtained the records and a number of other documents on Monday, only hours after the Supreme Court denied a move by Trump attorneys to keep them private.
It's hilarious to me. You know, Trump nominated the justices he did. I'm sure Trump is, without a doubt, a malignant narcissist, or for the layman in the chat who may not know that term and may not want to Google, Trump's a psychopath
Yeah.
through and through. So
Actually, I did a video on my channel.
fear. It's pure fear motivating him. He nominated the justices he nominated, assuming that there would be loyalty to him.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I mean, fuck Barrett. She does not belong where she is. But Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, they're not all kissing his ass here. And I can only imagine how he must be unraveling over in Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah. I did a video about it on my channel a few weeks ago called When the Narcissist Fails. Because I saw
How about what happens when the narcissist fails? Let's interview my mom someday. In fact, I think we'll discuss that privately if you'd like.
Okay, but I saw an article about what happens when a malignant narcissist fails. Yeah,
I can tell you. Oh, you want to know what happens when a malignant narcissist fails? Let's talk about my childhood. Not really, but
okay, but basically they go into denial.
Yes,
they try to drag down as many people with them as they can.
Oh yes, they absolutely. It becomes a matter of. It definitely becomes a matter of destructive. Malignant narcissist rage is catastrophic in the amount of damage it does. And Trump is definitely trying to wreak as much havoc as he can. It started when he lost the election, and I fear it will continue for a long time to come. He should do humanity a favor and die. Why couldn't COVID have killed him?
Yeah, this is exactly what Trump has been doing. He's even now he refuses to accept that he lost.
Oh no!
He claims that he won. The election was stolen from him.
That's the malignant narcissist determination to stick to the lie, no matter how much evidence is in his face.
Yeah,
my father was like that.
But yeah, Trump does want his ego stroked.
Oh yes, it is all about preserving that false sense of it's all about preserving his false construction of reality, and I'm loving seeing it unravel bit by bit. And the fact that it's slow, actually, the sadist in me is just reveling in that.
Yeah. And the article goes on. A source tells CNN that there are millions of pages of documents from January 2011 to August 2019, including tax filings, financial statements, work papers, and contracts relating to the preparation of the tax returns. New York DA Cyrus Vance.
It's the Cyrus.
Oh, sorry, Cyrus Vance.
No, Sirius is black. Sirius black.
Is investigating the former president or the Trump organization engaged in tax fraud, insurance fraud, or other schemes. So this is a story. It's going to.
We know that. I mean, for God's sake, his kid was putting money that was supposed to go to children with cancer into his own pocket. Nothing is impossible here. But if it's millions of pages, I'm afraid of whether the statute of limitations or any relevant statutes of limitations will run out. I do hope that there's a process in place to. If it's millions of pages, that must take up several rooms.
Yeah, this is a story that's going to go on and on. And if there's any justice, Trump will be prosecuted.
I hope so.
Will he end up behind bars? Well, I'm not sure.
That's what we're hoping.
But at the very least, I think he needs to be fined a lot of money.
Why would finding him is pointless, though, if you think about it. He can't even be asked to pay people who he can't even be asked to pay people who perform services for him. There's a long track record of that, as I'm sure you're aware. I don't put it past him to just not pay any fine that is assessed.
Yeah.
That's why jailing him is the only real solution here. Really, there's also an example has to be made of him, because if he gets off, a fine would be a slap on the wrist. If he gets off with just a fine, it's going to teach people that that's okay. That's how stupid the American public is.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing it's only a crime if you're poor. So, and that doesn't even matter to his cult following. They just think everything Trump does is sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah. And talking of which,
fuck the libs.
Well, weren't Q saying that this was the day that Trump was supposed to get back into power somehow?
Oh yes. Oh, I try to ignore I try to ignore QAnon for the sake of my own sanity. I cannot bring myself. And I mean, not that my personal life has any real weight in this, but it actually dismays me a great deal to. Not many people know this, but my boyfriend actually has a 6-year-old son, and he is in the care of his mother and has been since 2017. She's one of those spiteful types. We haven't seen him since then, but his stepfather is a QAnon supporter, and it's like, this is the kind of thing that's being taught to our kids. It's that's the kind of philosophy being taught to our kids. Is that the kind of example we want to set for posterity? That anything goes as long as your last name is Trump or you have an R next to your name?
Yeah.
That's not, I mean, I'm a parent myself, as most know, and I want my daughter to know that it's wrong to it's wrong to commit financial crimes. It's wrong to everything Trump is doing is just so objectively wrong, and I don't get how people can't see that or won't see that.
No, because they worship him.
They do, literally.
Yeah, and that segues nicely into the next topic here.
Yes, this is what I've been looking forward to.
Here's how white evangelicals found themselves worshipping a golden Trump.
Oh, that statue just nauseates me to look at. It's disgusting. How can they equate Trump of all people with patriotism when the motherfucker won't even contribute to our economy by paying his fucking taxes? Those shorts, I would love to give me 5 minutes with a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
You laugh, but I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
This is just a prime example. Before we even get into the article, before we even get into it, this is a prime example of how sick and deranged Trumpism is getting. It is a cult, and you cannot change my mind or that of most people.
Before we get into the article, while that picture is on the screen, I want to read this. This is from Exodus chapter 32, the golden calf. When the people
comparisons have been drawn to that.
Yeah. When the people saw that Moses was so long in coming down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron and said, "Come, make us gods who will go before us. As for this fellow Moses, who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him." Aaron answered them, "Take off the gold earrings that your wives, your sons, and your daughters are wearing, and bring them to me." So all the people took off their earrings and brought them to Aaron. He took what they handed him and made it into an idol cast in the shape of a calf, fashioning it with a tool. Then he said, "These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt." When Aaron saw this, he built an altar in front of the calf and announced, "Tomorrow there will be a festival to the Lord." So the next day, the people rose early and sacrificed burnt offerings and presented fellowship offerings. Afterward, they sat down to eat and drink and got up to indulge in revelry. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go down, because your people, whom you brought up out of Egypt, have become corrupt. They have been quick to turn away from what I commanded them, and have made themselves an idol, cast in the shape of a calf. They have bowed down to it and sacrificed to it, and have said, 'These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt.'" And they're doing the same thing with Trump now. They're literally worshipping an idol made of gold.
If it's any comfort, it's not made of actual gold. I believe that's just gold-colored chrome over, I forget if it's fiberglass or what it is, but if it makes you feel any better, it's not actual gold. Still doesn't detract from the point at hand here. This is just frightening cult-like behavior. I am terrified of this turning into another Jonestown debacle, and that may seem a little nuts to some, but you know, it's just not out of the realm of possibility here. It's not.
I'm certain that if Trump told his followers, especially the QAnon people, to drink Kool-Aid laced with cyanide, they would. They certainly would. And the article goes on to say, social media was ablaze this morning with a video taken at the Conservative Political Action Conference, or CPAC, in Washington of a golden statue in the image of Donald Trump. People right away associated the graven image with the golden calf of the Bible, when Moses took so long bringing Yahweh's law down from Mount Sinai that his brother succumbed to pressure to erect an idol to a competing god, which is what I was just reading. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, the figure is probably a representation of the Egyptian bull god Apis in the earlier period, and of the Canaanite fertility god Baal in the later period. So there you have it. White evangelicals literally worshipping a golden Trump.
This is going to be in the history books, I'm telling you, if Texas will approve it.
Yeah. You couldn't make it up, could you?
No, the truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of which, you can push mute again.
Sorry? You want to see it again?
I actually
stay on the phone while
I actually just got word from the hospital. It's not looking good. For those who don't know,
yo, Sam is about to pull.
For those who don't know, my boyfriend's mother is on life support, and it looks like the plug is about to be pulled. So unfortunately, I do have to run earlier than I normally would. I apologize, Mike. I do. I'm so sorry, but I hope you understand the situation.
Well, yeah. Of course, you've got to go. And
thank you all. I'm sorry. Please bear with me.
Yeah, I'm sorry too, dude. I'm sorry, guys.
No, I promise this will not be a regular thing.
No, it can't be helped. It can't be helped.
Thank you.
Go.
Thank you so much for understanding. We will definitely reconvene and figure out, I mean, this won't happen again next week, hopefully. So anyway, I must take my leave. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sad news. But so I think I'll wrap things up. There's so much more that that we could have talked about, but yeah, I think just two more stories for you guys. The penultimate one I'll share with you now. This made me so angry. Boris Johnson preparing to set up charity to fund costly makeover of his Downing Street flats. And there he is with his fiancée outside 10 Downing Street. Boris Johnson is believed to be trying to set up a charity to help pay for a costly makeover of his Downing Street flat after protesting at the huge bill. The Prime Minister complained that the cost of refurbishment carried out by his fiancée, Carrie Symonds, was totally out of control and running to tens and tens of thousands, it was reported. The charity scheme would be based on one used by the White House to raise millions of dollars for interior design, antiques, and art, the Daily Mail said. A multi-millionaire financier and Tory peer, Lord Brownlow, has been approached to run the charity, it said, with an application to register it with the Charity Commission underway. The idea could provoke claims of a conflict of interest if it is seen as a backdoor way of providing a financial benefit to Mr. Johnson, while its official purpose would be to raise funds to preserve the heritage of Downing Street. The allegation is that it is motivated by the costs of the expensive makeover. An article in Tatler magazine claims the overhaul saw Ms. Symonds removing all vestiges of Theresa May's John Lewis furniture nightmare. It says the main living area of the flat has been painted deep green and is often lit by candles, while the couple chose not to hang pictures from the government art collection. The decor is said to have been inspired by Lulu Lytle, a celebrated interior designer who makes furniture based on traditional crafts, including blacksmiths, the Mail said. And I'll let you make of that what you will. And our final story this evening from IFL Science. Man hospitalized after putting 15 boiled eggs up his anus. For better or for worse, but probably worse, people just love to stick things in NSFW parts of their bodies. But one recent case report will make even the most jaded among us wince. It all started with a report published last week in the Dutch Journal of Medicine titled Step-by-Step Approach to Rectal Corpus Alienum. In other words, how to remove foreign bodies stuck in a patient's rectum. a truly noble cause. Ladies and gentlemen, the paper begins, patients who visit the emergency room because of foreign bodies in the rectum are certainly not exceptional. In recent years, the problem has even increased. On the basis of 3 different cases, we present a step-by-step approach for the removal of rectal corpus alienum. And it's one of those cases that is making all the headlines. Patient C is a 29-year-old man who came to the emergency room around midnight because of acute stomach pain, the study reports. Together with his partner, he had anally inserted 15 boiled and peeled eggs while under the influence of GHB earlier in the evening. GHB is a drug that can be used for treating narcolepsy, but is most famous for being a date rape or chemsex drug. By the time the gentleman got to the hospital, he was suffering from an abnormally rapid heartbeat of 120 beats per minute and a rapid breathing rate of 28 breaths per minute. A physical exam revealed abdominal guarding across his entire abdomen. Suspecting abdominal sepsis, the doctors gave him a CT scan, and what they saw was not pretty. Visible in the CT scan were a perforation in the sigmoid and a considerable amount of air and fluid in the abdominal cavity. The doctors report. Therefore, we deemed an emergency, if I can read this word, laparotomy necessary. Laparotomy. I can't pronounce that word. Sorry, is a surgical procedure in which large incision is made through the abdominal wall, allowing access to the abdominal cavity. In a revelation that will shock approximately nobody, forcing 15 eggs up your rectum is not a good idea. The doctors confirmed a large intestinal tear caused by the side dish cum suppositories, as well as extensive inflammation caused by feces leaking into it. The eggs were removed as well as we could, and the abdominal cavity was thoroughly rinsed, reports the case study. After the operation, the patient was monitored for a short time in the ICU, and after a few days, he was able to leave the hospital in a clinically good condition. So there you have it. But the moral of this story, don't insert eggs into your rectum. And on that bombshell, I will bid you good night. And if you've enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, then do subscribe. And if you want to be notified, hit the bell icon so that you never miss another video. Okay, bye for now.